America to come into being.
Have either of you watched the? It's Paul Giamatti, and I cannot think of. It's a mini series basically, but it's like 5 or 6 1-hour-long episodes.
The John Adams one.
John Adams.
The John Adams one.
I did never watch it.
I want to see that, but I have not seen it.
But they do a really good job of illustrating what we were talking about, of all of the reluctance and the infighting and the hesitance of, wait, are we really going to leave England? Do you realize what this is going to do to us? And it's the first time that I've read about it. I think we've all read about it, but it's hard to imagine. But they get some great actors in it. Like, oh, I totally get this. I feel really dumb for not figuring that out ahead of time. How disturbing that idea would have to be at that time.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that there was, and a lot of people who, if you read our history books, they're considered kind of traitorous because they sided with the Brits. But you can see how they would feel some loyalty to the crown.
I am a descendant of one of the Declarations of Independence signers, so it's
Paul Giamatti?
a bit of a
Okay.
Yeah, he's my dad.
Exactly.
So yeah.
But yeah, anyway, it was not a given that we were going to achieve our independence at that time. So it was a pretty brave deal in those ways. So we have the Count to thank for this.
Well,
Merca.
I kind of feel like he's shoehorned into that story.
I think so too, actually.
Merca, either way.
Merca. Yeah. In 1779, and I'm leaving a lot out of his timeline. He actually was bouncing around all over the place.
The timeline is amazingly dense.
Yeah, and considering how slow travel was in those days, I mean, he really got around. It's amazing. He's halfway around the world. In 1779, though, he went to Hamburg, Germany, and became buds with Prince Charles of Hesse-Kassel, who I talked about earlier. He lived as a guest in the prince's castle at an unpronounceable town. I'm going to call it
Eckernford.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll call it that. And according to local records,
maybe.
he died there February 27th, 1784. He left behind some clothes, a little cash, personal items like combs and razors and stuff like that. But no gold, no jewels, or anything else particularly valuable.
So that's where our story ends.
Yeah, but not quite.
Oh.
Yeah, it turns out he returns from the dead.
Oh.
Yeah. In 1785, now let's remember he died in 1784, he shows up at the Masonic Convention in Paris. Apparently was actually on the registry there and everything, so that's interesting. Supposedly in 1786, he had a meeting with the Empress of Russia. Presumably that's Catherine the Great.
I would presume.
I don't know. Yeah. In 1788, he sends a letter to Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette with a warning, which is let's remember it's only a year until the start of the French Revolution. I'm not going to read the entire letter because it's kind of long. I'll read the first sentence or two. Time is fast approaching when imprudent France, surrounded by misfortunes she might have spared herself, will call to mind such hell as Dante painted, and on and on and on from there. It's pretty dire.
It's not a happy letter.
Yeah. Anyway, and they apparently didn't heed his warning, and maybe there wasn't much they could do. In 1788, 2 other people reported running into him. Also, I'm not going to tell you their names because I can't pronounce them. Yeah.
So they ran into him. So they saw him somewhere and talked to him, ran into him, or saw him at a distance?
No, the first one claims to have spoken to him. Another one claims to have met with him. And he said, this is an interesting one too. His name was Baron Linden. He met with him, and the Count said that he was on his way out of Europe, headed for the Himalayas. He, quote, "I will rest, I must rest. Exactly in 85 years will people again set eyes on me. Farewell." The words of the Count. But he must have fibbed because he actually showed up a little earlier than that. Flair for the dramatic. I don't know if you guys have noticed that. Yeah.
Maybe he meant 85 days.
Could have been. Yeah. In late 1789, the Countess, another name I don't know how to pronounce, so I'm just gonna murder it here. It said Dodimer.
Yeah.
Countess Dodimer. I don't know.
You're the best
The
of
Countess,
the pronouncers.
yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So she got a letter from him saying the sun had set on the French monarchy. It was too late. His hands were tied by, quote, "one stronger than myself," unquote. He prophesied the death of Marie Antoinette, the ruin of the royal family, and the rise of Napoleon. So, yeah, this guy must have had a time machine, huh?
Yeah, kind of sounds like it.
Yeah.
Or Marty McFly gave him a book of history, one of the two.
Yeah,
That
something.
could have been. In 1793, he again wrote a letter with a prophetic warning about Marie Antoinette's death. Said in 1793 her fate would be death, and that's how it turned out to be. Mm-hmm. And the Countess asked, this is again the Countess with the unpronounceable name, asked if she would see him again after he gave her the prophecy, and he replied 5 more times, do not wish for a 6th. Apparently that means the 6th time is going to be when she dies. Yeah, I know. So the first of the 6 was the assassination of Marie Antoinette, when she ran into him again. An Englishman saw him in 1798 in a prison in France. In 1799, he was seen by that same countess we just talked about at the 18th Brumaire of Louis XVI. That was the coup d'etat in which Napoleon overtook the French consulate and began his coup.
So most of these are that one countess saying, "Oh, I saw him again," right?
Well, it's a lot of
Are they?
her.
Is it substantiated by other people at the same time? Is that there are other people who are also saying, "Oh yeah, I saw him too, and it was a weird thing."
Well, there are.
Okay.
Actually, I'm going to skip over some of the rest of this particular countess's things. In 1820, Albert Van Dam, who's an Englishman, wrote in his memoirs and talked about a person who bore a lot of resemblance to the Count of Saint Germain, but he called himself Major Fraser. But he just sounds a lot like him. But we'll skip that because he didn't actually say that it was Saint Germain. So
Sure.
no more of that. And he met with a certain Lord Lytton. His full name is Edward George Earl Lytton, Bulwer Lytton.
Well, that's not a
Englishman.
tongue twister.
Yeah, not at all.
I'd hate to be a kid and have to learn how to write all of that.
Oh, I know. Imagine that every time you sign a check.
Somehow, I don't think there was much check signing happening.
Probably not. But Lord Lytton was an English politician, poet, and a novelist. He was very popular, and he coined some really kind of, what's the word I'm thinking of? Cliched phrases these days. Words like the great unwashed, the pen is mightier than the sword. Yeah, but apparently, so this is a guy who said that he met with the Count. He was seen in 1867 at a meeting for the Grand Lodge of Freemasons in Milan, Italy. In 1870, Napoleon III became so interested in this undying Count that he had a special commission put together to gather information. They were stationed at the Hotel de Villa. In 1871, the Hotel de Villa burned down, destroying all the records. So the Count is apparently an arsonist.
Or just trying to hide his trail.
I know. In 1877, he was seen in Milan, Italy, again at a Freemason meeting. In 1896, somebody named Annie Besant claimed to have met the Count. In 1896, also somebody named Manton Blavatsky claims to have met the Count and said that she was in frequent contact with him.
So hang on just a second. I just want to clarify. So we've got and these are a couple of things. So is he identifying himself as the Count, or just people say, no, that looks like the Count?
Well, that is the deal. Now, I think in these cases, these are people who say they met with him. In other words, they didn't just run into him or see him in the street. They actually met with him. And apparently,
Wait. When was the last one that you just said? What was the date on that?
That was 1896, I think.
He would have been in his 90s.
No, he would have been...
late 80s.
No,
if
he would have been...
He would have been...
1896, he would have been 186
Yeah,
years
he'd been
old.
200 years old at that point.
Yeah.
So
Sorry.
that's where I'm saying is like, well, these people couldn't have met him before. There's no possible way that these regular human people could have met him before. So I'm just trying to figure out if they're saying that it's the Count because A, he said he's the Count. B, they've seen a painting of him and the likeness is striking, or if it's just anecdotal. I'm trying to understand, because I could never get a good handle on why I said, oh yeah, he was the Count. What drove that?
Well, I kind of suspect that, and I'm half serious here, I kind of suspect that there was probably a standing joke among the nobility and the higher classes in Europe about the Count. I think he became kind of famous, and I think that maybe it was just a joke. Then you run into somebody and say, "Hey, you seen the Count?" And they say, "Oh yeah, I saw the Count at a Rosicrucian convention in Baden-Baden." And it's all just a joke,
Right.
It
He's become the Dos Equis guy.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe it's as simple as that. But you're right. I mean, at a certain point, I mean, when it's like 1793, well, sure, he could still be alive, and there'd be people around who knew him. So that all makes sense. But then when you're getting up to the, the closing of the 19th century, that's a little different.
Well, and that's what I could never get a clear line on, was how, what interaction when it was written down and then transcribed and rewritten, yada, 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 what actually happened. And that's, and I know that the records are a little sparse and inconclusive, and we're probably not going to get the answer to my question that is driving me bonkers, but I've got to ask it anyway.
Yeah. But there is a ton of stuff on the internet about this guy. I mean, he's really, really excited a lot of people's interest, and so as you know, the more web pages there are, the more opportunities for what's the word I'm thinking?
Embellishment?
Mischievousness. Yeah.
Misinterpretation?
Or mischief.
Trolling?
Mischief. Yeah, trolling. There's that. But here's the deal, and this is what we really need to figure out, is that if the Count truly is immortal, that means he's still alive today. And that means at least one of these websites is his website. We need to figure out which one that is.
Which one it is. It's probably that one that had the purple background with the purple text on it.
The one that I love so much.
Yeah, it's probably that one.
Yeah.
He probably made that one for himself.
Yeah, I don't know. There's got to be a way to figure out which one is the Count's website. That would, and we'll deal with that in the future.
We'll have to
episode.
do a domain registry search.
Yeah. Well, I'll just spit out a couple more things here. There was a strange encounter in World War I in August 1914. 2 Bavarian soldiers captured a man in Alsace. During the interrogation, their prisoner got irritable and started to rail about the futility of the war. He told his captors, "Throw down your guns. The war will end in 1918 with defeat for the German nation and her allies." And then he said, "Everyone will be a millionaire after the war." This is something I think somebody made up, actually.
Yeah. It's too easy.
Yeah, everyone will be a millionaire after the war. There will be so much money in circulation, people will throw it from windows, and no one will bother to pick it up. You'll need to carry it around in a wheelbarrow to buy a loaf of bread.
Which is actually...
That's true.
It's totally true, because when the German economy was collapsing and inflation was running rampant, but nobody kept cash, it was worthless. I mean, they made the... what was the $1 million mark or whatever it was? The mark that was... Actually... There was 100,000s and $1 million, because it was just so worthless that it took so much to buy so little that nobody could carry it.
Yeah, I think it was only very recently in time that Zimbabwe started printing their $1 million note. Million Zimbabwean dollars or whatever they are. Because it became so worthless. I would love to have $1 million bill. Wouldn't that be cool?
Well, those old notes, I mean, people literally were burning them to heat their homes. That's how little value they had.
Oh, yeah.
And very few of them have survived.
The
value of those bills now, those weird denominations that they kept putting out just because of inflation,
I know,
are collector's item, and they are worth a lot of money. And I've seen pictures of them, and it's amazing to see not a joke, but a true note that has that many zeros on it, and it looks like Monopoly money because it's just got such a huge number written on it.
I know, it's sad. My uncle was in the war in Europe, and he brought back, the only souvenir he brought back that I know of is a Walther automatic pistol, which he gave to me years ago. So that was nice of him. I thought it was a really generous gift, actually. But I really wish he'd picked up a few of those notes and brought those back and given those to me, too. That would have been cool. Yeah. Oh, well.
I believe it's what they thought was worth anything, and it wasn't the note.
Yeah.
Anywho, again, we're way off
Let's get back
track.
to our story. Some other meetings, but I'm not going to beat on this too much. In August 1930, a guy named Guy Ballard supposedly met him on Mount Shasta in California. And it started the IAM activity, which you can, if you Google that, there's a wiki page on it. It's IAM, and AM stands for Ascended Master. Yeah, I know. Yeah, we know.
He's an ascended being, essentially.
Yeah. He was also supposedly spotted in the 1960s at a conference in Berlin. And last of all, in '72, a guy named Richard Chambry went on French television claiming to be the Count. that was discredited.
Didn't he said he knew how to turn lead into gold, and he did it in front of everybody on a camp stove or something like that?
Yeah, I would like to learn. I'd like to be able to do that.
Yeah, me too, man.
Yeah, it didn't turn out very well for him.
No.
No.
I'm shocked.
Everybody turned against him because they knew what a fraud he was, and he ended up committing suicide, which was terrible.
Yeah, I know. So, just goes to show you, be honest.
Don't troll the world. They get mad.
Let's get into some theories as to what the count was all about. Was he immortal or not? So the first theory is he was just immortal. You guys have any thoughts on that?
Well, there's a lot of stories about supposed immortal beings through history. I mean, that is kind of a consistent theme, and we can bring it to modern times with things like Doctor Who, as we've been joking about, or the Highlander, things like that. You know, these guys are from way back on and have lived far, far in the future, but it's
not quite credible.
No, because here's the thing. Okay, this is something I've always had a problem with say, the Highlander series. I swear I've seen episodes of that where they were sick, but let's just say they don't get sick, so they don't get diseases, or even worse, sexually transmitted diseases, but let's just say they get a hand chopped off. Now you get to go through eternity
with them missing your hand.
I mean, this doesn't make sense.
You're not very well brushed up on your Doctor Who canon, are you?
No, I'm not.
Yeah, because he loses a hand.
Well, I know the Doctor can regenerate, but I'm going more towards the Highlander reference.
Sure, that's fair.
Because that, to me, is, while still far-flung, a little more grounded.
Well, obviously, the Highlander guy comes from the same sort of class of beings as the Doctor, so he can regenerate, too.
Yeah, he's a Time Lord, too.
Yeah.
I just counterpoint with Keanu Reeves, just constantly. No, I mean, genuinely,
Keanu actually does look a little older than he used to.
He looks a little older than he used to. That's definitely true. I guess it's not serious. I'm not serious. I don't know. He doesn't age a lot, but that's explained by a lot of different things. But I do think to 100% discount the idea of immortal beings in our world is... I'm not willing to totally discount it. I think there are a lot of weird things in our world, and I just...
Yeah, but I'm kind of wondering because part of the aging process isn't just breakdown in cell regeneration and stuff like that, but also just gravity.
Yeah.
That's why you get you get kind of jowlier and saggier as you get older. It's not just because you're aging; it's because of gravity.
Right.
So imagine what a 20,000-year-old person would look like.
That's why they have to rest.
That's why they have to rest and maybe
sleep upside down
get
for
plastic
80 years.
Yeah, but the thing is, I've got an uncle who I've known for 30-some years that he's been in my family, and that guy, you see a picture of him 20 years ago and now, and he looks maybe 10 pounds heavier, but otherwise identical. So there are people who don't appear to his age as much as others, and I wonder if maybe that's part of it, where all your friends are working in the field, or all your servants are toiling and they're killing themselves and they're aging quite rapidly, and then you've got this one guy who's kind of living a life of luxury, and he kind of hits his stride of what he's going to look like at about 30, but really hasn't done any strenuous outdoor activity for 30 years, but stayed in okay shape. He's going to look the same for all intents and purposes, and people's memories are notoriously shoddy, so they won't notice the couple of bags that you have that aren't that big compared to when they saw you 20 years ago and you had none under your eyes.
It's also possible the Count lied about stuff like when he was in Venice, for example, when he met that countess who had known him, supposedly. Maybe it really was his father that she had known, and he just lied to her about it.
Also, Portrait of Dorian Gray, we kind of mentioned before, too. Maybe you just have a painting that ages for you.
Yeah.
That takes care of gravity.
That would be kind of cool.
Magic is a thing.
Yeah, who do I get to go to for one of them?
I don't know.
Well, let's move on to our next theory. This has actually been posted. Some people have actually suggested this and said that he is the Wandering Jew.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again,
Explain to everybody who the Wandering Jew is.
Yeah, the Wandering Jew is apparently there was a Jewish guy who, when Jesus was heading off to his crucifixion, carrying his cross, that some Jewish guy taunted him. So Jesus threw a curse on the Wandering Jew, which is that he was to walk the earth until he returns, till the second coming of Christ. So the Wandering Jew wasn't quite immortal. He's going to die sometime when Jesus comes back. But in the meantime, he's stuck on this planet. So the Wandering Jew is who he is. So,
but there's nothing ever said about him not aging. He just has to live that long, right?
That's true. I mean, maybe he has to spend like the next 10,000 years in a rest home.
Yeah.
And that's how depressing that would be. Oh, Jesus, you're mean.
That's mean.
Yeah,
Actually, the Wandering Jew thing didn't even come into currency until I think the 13th century. It's not like that's documented or anything like that.
Right, that was a story that got spun up. But this is my whole thing about immortality, and people always glamorize, oh, if I was a vampire and lived forever, or if I was immortal, or whatever way they go about becoming immortal. Nobody ever thinks about, and I've seen this dramatized in a number of places, of what a lonely frickin' existence that would have to be after about the first 150 years.
That's why you find your tribe, man.
Maybe, but
you're just
everybody everything you're used to, it's gone. It's changed.
You gotta go make new friends.
You're
gotta go find a new wife.
Up with it.
But think about this: is imagine if there was. I don't know if you ever watched that TV show Alias.
No, I never watched that.
That was actually kind of fun. It was created by J.J. Abrams, and there's this uber bad guy whose name I forget, and he's trying to amass all these artifacts and stuff from this one particular mad medieval genius. The idea being is that if you get all these together, and I forget, it's been a while, and wave your hands over them and say the right words, you achieve immortality. And so in the ultimate episode, the ending episode of the show,
Spoilers.
Yeah. Well, I mean, everybody's going to watch that show. It's been years since the show was on.
Just saying, spoilers.
Oh, yeah, spoilers.
Just in case you suddenly found Alias.
Yeah, and so this guy goes into this cave, and he has shot our heroine's father is also a regular in the series. And so he shot him and left him for dead, but he's not quite dead.
Of course.
Goes into this cave and finds this little room in the cave that's got the final piece that he needs to achieve immortality. And then he achieves immortality, and then suddenly Dad pops in the doorway, and he's got like a dynamite belt that he's holding up, and blows it up and kills him. He dies, of course, and of course the cave partially collapses, and so this guy who's now immortal has to spend eternity trapped in a cavern pinned under a boulder.
That sucks.
Yeah. It was like the ultimate comeuppance. But anyway, I'm totally getting off the mark
we
here.
are really bad about sitting on top of
Yeah, okay. So much for the Wandering Jew. As I said in my notes here, he's got black hair, which is fair enough. But he was also described as having pale skin. And especially in the days of Jesus, the Jews did not have pale skin. No.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. They looked like little small Arabs. And the Arabs were small back in those days too. I mean, this is like 2,000 years ago.
True.
Everybody was probably 5'3".
Yeah, that was a tall person.
I mean, have you ever seen, like, you go to England, you see these suits of armor that are on display?
And they're itsy bitsy.
Yeah, it's like these were the big guys, the really big guys that got to push everybody else around, and they're about as tall as Devin.
Yeah, everyone was my size.
Yeah, I know. People were small back in the day.
So what's next?
Okay, our next theory: suspended animation.
Well,
So the count.
Why?
Yeah, so the count would go out, meet with people, get his face out there, and then go back to wherever and jump into his suspended animation capsule and just, not age for 20 years or
Yeah,
so.
that's dumb.
No, it is dumb. I know.
Sorry.
I just threw it in there. Next one is time travel.
Yeah.
Suppose he was a time traveler.
It would make sense.
That would make sense. He was able to foresee things that happen in the future.
Tried to warn people,
Tried
stop
to warn
them.
people, yeah.
He couldn't actually intervene, but he,
Yeah, so it's not like in this scenario he had a normal lifespan, but he was able to spread it out over a great number of years because he was bouncing around between points in time.
To the important points.
Yeah. So I'm assigning this one a 90. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay.
90%.
Yeah. No, not 90%. just a 90.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
A 90A. Yeah, okay. Next up, and this kind of fits, he was a vampire.
Yeah.
Because he didn't eat food. Didn't have sex. Oh, yeah, you're right.
Right.
He could be dead.
Well, fair.
I mean, he could be dead by now.
Buffy could have got him.
Yeah, I know. So if he was a vampire, that explains why he wouldn't eat food and why he wasn't having sex with women. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you got? And he was also very pale.
So this is going with the glittery vampires, not the Dracula vampires. In other words, he can go in the sun. Because
But glittery,
the Bram Stoker Dracula can't go in the sun or he bursts into flame. This guy is like hobnobbing and going around. I'm assuming that if you read some of the accounts, he's hanging out in the day with people, which makes me think that he's going the, like I said, the glittery vampire.
Like Twilight.
Yeah, the Twilight vampire. Thank you. I have expunged the name of that series from my brain.
I'm glad I was able to put it back in. Ha ha.
Wait, what show?
In fairness, Twilight is not the first work to explore vampires as being able to go into the daylight.
But yeah.
Just saying.
I kind of prefer vampires being kind of limited.
I agree.
Yeah.
Hey.
Much safer.
Yeah.
What was the other one that would?
Well, Queen of the Damned has some stuff in that too.
Oh, well, I know.
But there's a lot of other. I mean.
I know that, if you were say of Lestat's stature, then he actually was able to go out in the sun and toast himself and still survive it.
Right.
But a young vampire couldn't survive it. Yeah.
But you have to argue if the Comte de Saint Germain is a vampire, he's obviously of at least Lestat's stature.
Oh, hell yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So, just saying.
And I don't know how much time he spent, outside versus inside and all that stuff.
I think this has probably got the most pop culture references ever for any episode.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
wow.
I think so. Yeah, actually,
I never thought we'd talk about an Anne Rice book on this show.
Yeah, no, actually, her vampire books were pretty good. Yeah, I enjoyed them. They were entertaining. Next theory, he just told a lot of tall tales.
Oh, he was just a liar?
That could have been.
Fair.
Yeah, he made a lot of very dubious claims. He told people that he was 500 years old. Voltaire called him the Wonder Man, and sarcastically. Casanova was another doubter. He met the Count numerous times, and he, as I said, was in his memoirs. The Count was in Casanova's memoirs, that is. And here's a small quote from. He had more to say. Quote. This extraordinary man, intended by nature to be the king of impostors and quacks, would say in an easy, assured manner that he was 300 years old, that he knew the secret of the universal medicine, that he possessed a mastery over nature, that he could melt diamonds, professing himself capable of forming out of 10 or 12 small diamonds one large one of the finest water without any loss of weight. All this, he said, was a mere trifle to him. Notwithstanding his boastings, his barefaced lies, and his manifold eccentricities, I cannot say that I thought him offensive. In spite of my knowledge of what he was, and in spite of my own feelings, I thought him an astonishing man, as he was always astonishing me.
And Casanova said that.
Yeah, I know.
Right? It's not... We're not saying some Puritan or some Casanova.
Yeah, he said, this guy was just a crank and an imposter.
Yeah.
And,
I got to be honest. Anybody who says they practice alchemy, that just sounds like I tinker in the garage and I play with these chemicals, and I can make gold out of lead, and I made this elixir one time that made me immortal, but I can't figure out how to do it again. Because of course I'm so brave. I made this thing that I didn't know what it was going to do, and then I just drank it.
Well, but what if it's real though? No, but I mean, genuinely think about if alchemy was real and people knew about it. If you knew how to do that, would you be broadcasting it everywhere and saying, I know how to create all of this wealth? Or would you hold that in and just secretly work your way up into the upper echelons of society and just comfortably stay there?
Yeah, well, you'd be nuts to actually let that secret out, because if anybody can make gold out of whatever, then pretty soon gold's not worth a thing.
Right.
So, you'd obviously want to keep it close.
So
but alchemy has got kind of a poor track record as far as I can see.
Well, there's been what did Casanova say? What's the term? Quacks.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of quacks.
Yeah, no, I mean, I understand the desire to create gold out of nothing or lead or whatever, but a lot of people wasted a lot of time trying to do that.
I just continue to argue that
money.
If you were actually successful with that, you wouldn't be trying to tell people that you were doing it.
You wouldn't. No, you would not tell people.
You'd be hiding it.
same thing with the diamond. I can take 10 or 12 small diamonds and
Yeah, you
make
wouldn't
one.
tell somebody
yeah.
that. No.
Yeah.
Why would you do that?
Yeah, and then I mean, take a couple hundred diamonds and make the Hope diamond out of it. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be really awesome.
Just do that. Probably how the Hope Diamond was formed.
Yeah. And one last thing, there at the time was an English comedian